Right, okay then. Do you know what? I'm going to start hitting how to do some fluid physics. Uh, Now, it's actually quite cool this, but I'm just going to start off by adding to my scene three things that every single fluid um, simulation actually requires to work. So, first thing we need is a domain. So this cube is going to become my domain. I'm going to pop over here and head into physics. Going to pop up to fluids, and then I'm going to drop this down. I'm going to change it into a domain. All this means is it's our place where the liquid, the gases, even the fire, because we've got all of these options within fluid, it's to contain it and stop it spreading outside of that point. Now, there's lots of settings within this that you can play around with, but the one that we're most interested in right now is changing it from gas to liquid. And you can see it's gone very solid. Don't worry about that for now. What we're going to do is I'm going to go into Z and wireframe so we can see inside the box. I'm also going to G and Z to get it a bit higher up. Okay, now the next thing we need is another mesh. And I'm going to use a UV sphere. I'm going to scale it right the way down to make it smaller. I'm going to G and again Z it up. Just going to make sure that it's still inside the box. You don't want it leaving that area, basically. Okay, so this part here now, this sphere is also going to be a fluid, and it's going to be a flow. You can see that I need to change the flow type to liquid, and now we've got to decide how it's going to produce water. Now, geometry basically means that that orb will create exactly the amount of water or liquid based upon its mass. So however big it is, that's the amount of water. Inflows permanently add liquid into the simulation based upon their initial mass, and outflows remove liquid. So I'm going to change it to an inflow, and I'm going to leave it like that for now. Finally, I'm going to add another mesh. I'm going to create another UV sphere. Again, G, Z, up. I'm going to make sure that this is in the area 2. I'm not going to scale it down, but what I am going to do is head into edit mode. Going to grab a top vertex, make sure my proportional editing's on. G and then Z again. And then I'm just trying to make sure that I've got kind of a dip for it to fall into. I think that's a little bit too far down. Let me just correct it. There we go. Okay, you can make a better container later on. We just need somewhere to catch the water. Outer tab. Let's again turn this into a fluid. And it's going to be an effector, and you can see that it's got collisions basically to make sure it can catch the fluid in it. Right, now that we've got all this together, we should be able to see it work by making sure we can see our animation pane. If you can't see it, it's usually hidden down here. Pull it up. If you're having trouble getting it up, head into the animation pane and you'll be able to see it all. Right, let's get ourselves rolling, shall we? So Z and then solid. And let me just make sure everything is set up properly because it's so frustrating when this doesn't work. And there we go. We now have fluid rolling out of this sphere, and you can see it's kind of pouring off the mass of it and heading down. Now eventually this little bowl that I've created is going to get to full, at which point it's going to start overflowing and the water is going to start dripping down the sides. And I'll just pause it there because it's going to start really upsetting my computer if I keep that running. That is how simple it is. Now, older versions of Blender, if I just click on my cube, you actually used to have to bake fluid textures in. There used to actually be a button here called bake, and I'm really glad that that's gone now, and things just simply work from the off. It just didn't make sense to constantly have to bake in everything as you go. Okay, a couple of other little settings just to make you aware. You can increase the resolution, so just basically it adds the kind of the numbers basically. If I really up it, unfortunately when you do that it takes longer to render it. You can see when I press go on my animation, it's kind of taking longer, but everything is a bit kind of denser, for want of a better word. It's allowing it to flow differently. Although my slow processing is not helping do this correctly, but here we go. It's kind of flowing more, like you can see it's splashing up more as a result of it, whereas before it was kind of blobbing downwards and hitting it like dough. Now it's got a kind of more of a splash to it. Okay, if we wanted to make it look more like water, because at the moment, well, it's rather grey, let's head into material preview. So everything is currently, as you can see, basically just white because that's my default material. The little green and blue and things and red that you can see in here, that is actually little particles. And you can see the little balls here, each one representing a particle, and it has a thickness surrounding it. I'll just kind of set the bowl colour slightly off white, but not too much. And then here's the thing, because this sphere here is the source of the water, it doesn't actually matter what colour you put on it. It's not actually going to affect the colour of the water. The colour of the water is actually affected by our cube here, and the cube will come back if you set your simulation to 0, and it'll flash back up. So here's our cube, this is our domain, this colours the water, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to give it a more water colour, so a blue. However, a big blue blob is not exactly the best colour, it doesn't really look like water. You can see here I've set the resolution too high and my computer is unhappy. So what we might need to do is play around with certain parts of it, maybe make it a little bit more metallic. There's far better ways to create watercolors than this, but I'm just trying to do it as simply and as fast as possible. So we can add that kind of feeling that it's more water by changing the colors around. Now again, just to kind of understand what this will look like when properly rendered, you're going to need some kind of lighting, and you're going to need to be able to see it in rendered view to actually get a good idea of what your water looks like when it's done. You can see you're playing around with things like the color channels and so on to create the right coloring. But other than that, that is a basic introduction to the core parts of basically a liquid simulation to begin with. As you can see, my computer is not happy. I've turned my resolution up too high. I do need a far superior computer to the one I've currently got, but you can probably just make out that I've kind of coloured the water just enough of a way to make it feel like it's slightly opaque. So there we go, that is setting up a fluid scene for the first time to create a water effect. So thanks for watching, please like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next video.